the idea that, okay, I want to manifest, $1 million tomorrow or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or like, I want to manifest like a car or something like that. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to like think about this and it's going to appear. It's not how it works.
In this episode, we get a chance to sit down with Miss Jessie De Lowe in Montecito, California. Jessie recently relocated there, and she is a manifestation coach, a loving wife, an incredible mother, and also a phenomenal entrepreneur. She has many different interests, and her ability to continually express in innovative ways is something that we really admire. I think there's so many offerings in this episode, and we cannot wait for you to hear it. Let's get into it. My girls, my guys, my group. This is MG Method, the show. We wanted to start, Jess, with just how are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really settled after many months we've been renovating this house. We've moved to a new city, had a new baby. So it's been a year of like a lot of flux. And I think finally now I feel settled, and it's September, so that energy of like back to school, like ready to kind of embark on new projects and to focus more so than I could before. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like ready for new things.
Mm. Now this is having your second child. Is it just a different experience altogether? Did you have a complicated birth or experience at all? Like, did it shift, in what way did it shift from the first time you had a child?
It was a C-section, just as it was with Amelie. There were actually some complications in the birth, which were unexpected in that, and everything was fine, thank God. But when they did the C-section, they realized there was scar tissue underneath from the previous C-section. And so the doctor said she literally had to kind of cut and retie all these veins that had kind of created a web that were preventing Lucia from coming out. And so Brian, we had this playlist for when the baby was going to come out. And so he was playing just like we did with Amelie. And we had the experience before of a C-section, so we knew how long it took and how long the playlist should be. And during this birth, Brian keeps replaying the song over and over. That's supposed to be the song when she comes out. And it's like the fourth time. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, is something wrong? Is something going on that we should know about? Because it was just there's obviously a reason he keeps playing this over and over again. And she's like, don't worry. She's like, there's just a booby trap situation where we're trying to work through. Everything's okay. But so she basically said that, she kind of encouraged me not to have another C-section, and that if I did decide to have another baby, that she would need to do it because she knows where all the sort of the veins are. And so that was intense, but the healing was fine. And Lucia is just the most amazing baby. She's been nothing but a joy and a treat and such a positive addition to our family. And Amelie, who's 4, has been the best big sister. There hasn't been a moment where she's there has been regression in some ways at some times, her acting like a baby or something here and there. But in terms of loving her sister and welcoming her sister, she's been the most gracious big sister of all time. So it's been so nice, so nice.
Did you feel, in being in the wellness space and having a C-section, did you feel, I think sometimes I've heard this echo that there's this kind of pressure of someone being in the space and their own unique experience in their birth. Did you feel at all any pressure as someone that we look up to in the wellness space, and what that was like for you?
That's a good question. I think in the beginning, so back when with Amelie, and when I learned she was breech, which is why I had a C-section, which just means that her head is up. And you honestly can have a vaginal breech birth. I've learned since that you can do it. It's not the most recommended necessarily, but you absolutely can do it. And when that sort of became the reality and I like got on board with the fact that I was having a C-section, I was fine with it. But there was definitely the like sort of like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry you have to have a C-section when I would tell people. And that, I don't know about being in the wellness space or not, but it's just like, you don't have to be sorry. Like, this is a decision that I've come to terms with. And there's actually a lot of benefits of having a C-section. And as long as the baby is safe and it's the best thing for the baby and for me, then there's no reason to feel sorry for me, you know? And I think that type of language around anything without knowing how someone feels about it is just oftentimes just not helpful. So I think it showed me how to sort of create space for someone else's choices and not impose my own feelings around what I assume they're feeling about it, right? With anything, you know? So it's just a good reminder, like, save your condolences sometimes because you don't know. Someone might actually feel really empowered by the decision or really, you know, grateful for being able to do something that's safe.
I love that. It's a gift. You know, we're curious here on the podcast how often and what your experience is like growing up and how it kind of shaped the woman that we're experiencing now. Where are you originally from and what did your parents do for a living?
I'm from Westchester, New York. So it's the town I grew up in is called Larchmont. It's 30 minutes outside of New York City. A really sweet town. The town I grew up in, the little area, is near the Long Island Sound. So lots of sailing. It was actually pretty international, which was cool. Like Japanese people, French people, a big French population.
Oh, wow.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And you go to a high school that kind of combines lots of different types of people from all socioeconomic statuses, all ethnicities, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a really sweet place. I feel very fortunate to have grown up there. And my parents, my dad was in finance. He still is. He is a stockbroker, sort of like tried and true stockbroker. And my mom is a chef. So she's done a ton of different types of work throughout her life, but her main thing is she's a cook, a baker, a chef, and she, you know, she's had a television show, she has cookbooks, she's like worked in prisons, like doing cooking with the inmates, like nonprofit work like that. She life coaches. She's kind of like Renaissance woman vibes.
Like you?
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
I feel like in a lot of ways it's sort of where I learned you can do all these different things and also be a mom and be present, but also be doing your own thing and create your own schedule and have passions and turn that passion into work, which I feel really grateful for seeing that as a model, honestly, because I don't know if I would have grown up thinking, oh, I can do anything I want and be a great mom, because I don't have that sense of separation between the two like a lot of people do. I think because my mom showed me that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. What would you say was the role that like you specifically played in your family, like with regard to kind of energy and personality and temperament?
That's such a good question. So I was the youngest of three. My older brother, my sister, and I was kind of like a rebel child a little bit, I have to say. I feel like even though I was the younger sibling, I was the one sort of, especially with my sister, like convincing her to do things maybe she was a little uncomfortable doing. I was always playing with kids older than me. I was always like going out with kids older than I was because of my siblings, and they were so inclusive to me. They were so, they were so like kind to me, this little sister, bringing me to like their parties and all these things that oftentimes little sisters like get the boot, like, no, you're not included, right? And I think as I'm told by my parents, when my sister came home from the hospital when she was born, there was tension between my brother and my sister because, you know, my brother was used to being the only child. My sister was a fussy baby. You know, she had colic. She was kind of crying a lot. And my brother was like, this isn't fun.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for
Yeah, exactly. And then I think when I came home, I was like a very peaceful baby. And so it kind of like, it brought more peace to the family dynamic. And it allowed, I think, there to be just more communication between everyone, maybe the kids at least. But I don't know. That's only what I'm told. I think I was just a little bit of a not troublemaker, because I was always like a good kid, but I was just so curious about everything and a little ahead of myself in a lot of ways.
Did you know growing up, what did you always think of your life and what you wanted to kind of create then? Like when you look back now to the life that you've created, does it feel like the energy that you felt when you were younger of like, this is what I want to do with my life, or it didn't feel clear to you then?
Well, I don't think I anticipated what I have now, because I feel like I didn't know, first of all, that I would live somewhere in California. Like, to me, I wasn't dreaming of I think probably my version of what I thought would be really cool was like to live in New York City and to like have a really great job maybe, and have a family like I had. Like, it was probably more similar, if I think back, aspirations of sort of like a version of what I grew up with. But I do remember this feeling when I was younger that I was always ready for the next thing. Like, I was always ready to see what was out there beyond what was around me. Like, I wanted to travel. I wanted to like hang out with people from different schools, not my own school. Like, I always was curious, and I think it's part of my like Aquarius nature. Like, I just was so curious about what was there that I didn't see, like what was beyond. And I did not anticipate living in California, starting a family here, and having, even the line of work I'm in now. I didn't anticipate this would be my livelihood, right? But I was always reading books about manifestation. I was always reading, like quantum physics books that my mom would bring home. Like, I was already immersed in that world, but I never thought, this is gonna be my job. I was just more interested in wanting to learn more about the way that we experience the world and how we can sort of be the best versions of ourselves within that.
Do you think now, even hearing you say that there was like books around about quantum physics, I think of proximity and just people's ability to know that something is possible because it feels close and real and tangible. And I'm sure we'll kind of get into this in a little bit about the work that you do, but do you see that correlation being heavily involved into like people creating that for the life that they want? Do you think it's necessary that they have at some point been introduced to some of these ideas?
I think whether it's in the formal context of, maybe it doesn't even have the label of manifestation or any of these labels, but if they're introduced to the idea that they can create their reality, or even they've seen someone who does it, like someone who shows them a template for what they can step into, right? So it doesn't have to be, I read the books, right? It doesn't have to be like, I even know what it is, right? Yeah. But have I seen someone defy the odds? Have I seen someone do something that surprised me, that I've never seen before, or someone create something that I'm drawn to? Some people never have that opportunity of seeing someone, and so they don't even know how to dream about it, So it's seeing something to expand your idea of what is possible for you. That is the most valuable thing.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that even from a young age, you were actively seeking that out, because sometimes that's the thing that can feel very scary for people. Like you're curious, you're like looking for something that disrupts the narrative or experience that you have, and you're kind of leaning into it. That I think is like just a beautiful quality that we can all kind of take away from, and being open to that. And did you ever feel, fear around that? I think like sometimes just like, I'm originally from a small town. And so sometimes even that idea can be unsettling, because there's kind of a comparison that starts to happen. So it's like, I don't want to see these other models. But it seems like you were really receptive to that, and you like got close up to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think throughout our, like what what looks like enticing to you is going to be different than what looks enticing to me, right? And so we all have our own versions of what we're drawn to, and like it could be in all aspects of our life. Like someone's relationship looks like really, wow, oh, that's possible. Like if someone didn't have parents who loved each other or exhibited that love, or maybe they had no model for what a healthy relationship looks like, and they see a relationship that looks, really like, wow, oh my God, I didn't know it could be like that. That's a moment where it changes what you think is possible for you, right? So anything, whether it's, oh, that job exists, I didn't even know that job existed. Like a manifestation coach, what's that? Oh, I can do that? That can be something that I spend my day doing? Oh, how cool is that? Literally, when I was graduating from college, I had studied art and I'd studied psychology. I Googled art psychology when I was trying to figure out what to do with my life.
Both these things, how do I put them together?
And, there's a master's degree in art therapy. Okay, well, that seems interesting. Let me check that out. And there you go. Like, that was what I did. I applied to one school. I happened to get into NYU, and I did that. But if I hadn't gotten into that school and I hadn't, taken that path, I would have maybe done something entirely different. But when you have interests and you like kind of put it out there and you see what you can find, the world opens up to you in that way often. If you ask for it, it will show up.
Yeah. And you were active in that, like even looking that up, you were a participant in that exploration. And,
Yeah.
What did your parents' marriage teach you about love?
That's a very good question. So my parents got married. My mom was 17, I think, when she met my dad. She got married at 19. No. Back up. Yeah. 17 when she moved in with my dad. She's known him for a very long time. 19 when they got married. So, and my dad was probably 22 or 23 when they got married. And they're still together. They're still very happily married. And I think their love has shown me, I think, first of all, just the power of devotion. Like, I think especially like the way my mom is so devoted to my dad. She verbally expresses that often. She shows him through various acts of service and love, cooking a lot, just how much she loves him, and vice versa. He also, in his own way, he's not as, over the top gushy as my mom is, but in his own way, he lets it be known how much he loves her. And I think you can never stop doing that. Like, you have to continuously be devoted to that person. It doesn't just keep going on its own without that constant reminder to yourself and to the other person, like, I am devoted to you, right? And it's a really good sort of like check-in to have. Like, are my actions reflecting that devotion? Am I even feeling that devotion right now? How can I get back to that? And then I think also my parents, have always encouraged each other to take risks, to change, to push beyond what they've done before. Especially, my dad's, I find, especially now that I'm, a mom, a working mom, I have a new respect for my dad's ability to support my mom through her evolution in her career and to try new things and to, I remember she, had to travel when she got a book deal and and that wasn't easy for my mom because she's like so attached to my dad. But he could have easily been like, don't do it, and maybe she wouldn't have done it, But he probably encouraged her, like, go do it. She traveled around the world, promoting her book, and different things that would be considered risky, he encouraged her to do, working in prisons, right? Like, she worked in Rikers Island, helping the inmates learn how to cook. And like, he encouraged that. So I feel like there's a lot of helping each other push beyond their comfort zone and supporting their evolution, which I think is important.
Yeah, and something that we're curious about with your relationship too. And and I think that just having a support system that fosters that sort of like growth and evolution is necessary. and it requires probably that people are comfortable in who they are, like a large part of that is, and having an abundant mindset so that you don't feel that you're getting left behind when someone's expanding. There's something really important
it's like,
to that.
Because, if you feel threatened by their growth, it's a bad sign, right? It's like if someone else's evolution makes you feel nervous, that you're going to lose them or that there's not enough time or space for you, it's just a conversation that needs to be had. Like, it's okay to feel those things for sure. And oftentimes people probably do feel them. And my dad probably felt them, but you can feel it, but it's like, how do you work through it? And how do you create space for everyone to live their dream, but also not, sort of neglect your family either, or neglect your partner. It's like creating the perfect puzzle so that everyone gets the attention and you also give yourself the attention that you need. And it's like probably an everlasting puzzle that's being shaped and placed. It's not something that you like do and it's done. It's like the pieces are always moving.
Yeah, that makes me smile because I was thinking once with my father, he had said, your mom and I had made a decision that she was going to be at home and she was going to watch all you girls. And I said, oh, so, what happened when you guys did the reevaluation? And he was like, Max, what do you mean? We looked and we never looked back.
Right.
And so it was like a new idea to him that I said, at what point do you check in? What if her feelings change?
Totally.
And so I think that having those, do you have in your marriage and you as a mother also in career, do you guys have kind of a formal way, or do you specifically have an approach to evaluating if your desires have changed?
It's a really great question. And no, we don't have a formal process with that. But I think, and couples actually come to me for that, which is interesting. And I feel like because my work is all about setting your intentions, right? And having with a partner, being able to hold that vision of a shared intention together and making sure that your own intentions, their intentions, and the shared vision of your intentions together can all coexist. Because if your personal intention is not in harmony with the intention of you as a couple, or is not in harmony with their intention, you're blocking each other, right? From moving in the direction that you want. So when you set intentions as a couple, it's almost like this super powerful thing because you're both holding this vision together. And I feel like Brian and I have naturally done that. We don't have a formal process around it, but when anything, any big thing in our life, we sit down together, what do we want? Let's get really clear. We do this very regularly, very casually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like anytime we're on a hike or we're talking, it's like we paint a picture together of what we want. We ask each other a lot of questions. But I think the formal process really could be as simple as, what am I calling in right now? What are you calling in right now? What are we calling in right now? How can we support each other's visions? How can I support yours? How can you support mine? And how does this live in harmony? How do all of those things, what is it going to look like if this is all happening? And because sometimes you want something for yourself, but it actually doesn't make sense with the way that the family, so it's either there has to be some sort of compromise, right? It's it's not that you should let go of your dream, but you have to figure out, okay, how's this going to work? And ask those questions. How can we make this work? How can we make it so that everyone's living their truth in this experience? Because you have one life to live. It's you don't want to swallow down your dreams, but you also have responsibilities. And you also, in partnership, you've chosen to be in a partnership. It is a give and take, It is a give and take. It's not you can always do whatever you want. It's just, you could do that if you just decided not to be in a partnership, which is another choice to make, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. When the first time I met you, I remember thinking, wow, this woman is really giving us permission to think about what we want, and I know that this is a conversation that comes up for many people, but I especially hear this often from many women is actually taking that time to figure out, what do you want? What would you say are some kind of common misconceptions about what manifestation is?
Well, I think the sort of the idea that, okay, I want to manifest, $1 million tomorrow or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or I want to manifest a car or something like that, and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna like think about this and it's gonna appear. It's not how it works, right? And people who are telling you that's how it works, it's kind of a gimmick, right? And it's not, that's not actually how manifestation should be approached. It's not like, how can I get what I want? It's more about how can I be in alignment with the reality that I'm calling in. So it's an inside job, right? So it's like, once you align yourself, the way you're thinking, your belief system, your energy that you're bringing into any space, the energy that you're, creating your reality with, your words, just the way that you show up in this life, that whole vibration that you're putting out is what makes everything around you show up. So if the car or the $1 million or whatever that you're calling in, what is that vibration? What is that, what will you feel when you get that you're looking to have, right? And can you kind of come into a place in yourself where you are, let's say it's, I want to have confidence. Maybe that car gives someone confidence, right? What makes me feel confidence? How can I dig? That's like, a real opportunity to say, where is my confidence? Where is it based? Is it based on, something external that could be taken away in a second? Or is it based on just me and my worth that I know, and my image of myself that's so strong and so positive that it doesn't need the extra things to feel more confident? And you might find yourself, when you get into that place, first of all, you don't care about the car, or maybe the car comes super effortlessly because it's in alignment with who you are, and maybe not. It's not about the actual physical thing, but it's about you and your expression of yourself and what that looks like in your external reality. And all of us can sit down and say, what does my reality look like right now? And say, okay, well, that is a reflection of what's happening on the inside. I'm creating this, I'm manifesting this. If I want to manifest something different than what I see, I have to go inward and shift things around, and my energy will then show me something different.
So when someone then, if they're manifesting that confidence and the car or whatever it may be, it's then on a daily basis, like, how do I make this decision in any aspect of my life, like confidently and or like actually showing up in that energy? So is it like, how do I, go into this meeting in a confident way, or how do I embody confidence in my friendships? And is this kind of what I'm taking?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. If confidence is the issue, it's like, what is the deep rooted? So our subconscious mind sort of creates the way we operate in the world. Like 95% of what we do just on a daily basis is ruled by the subconscious mind. And basically, it's like, think about your digestion. Are you thinking about it? Like, are you telling your body, okay, digest this piece of food and make it, go to the right places and give me nutrients? No, your body just does it on its own, right? You're not telling it to do anything. And so there's things like that where you think you're in control, but actually the subconscious mind is just doing it for you, right? So these automatic things that they're sort of habitually ingrained from a young age. And, research shows us that our subconscious mind is formed between the years 0 and 7. So these formative years before we kind of have a choice of what we're thinking about, it's just sort of like, it's just the experience. There's no sort of separation between you and the experience. It's just you're being formed in this time, right? And so it's so invisible to us by the time we're our age that it's like, it's just how we believe that this is just the way it is, or like we believe our thoughts as truth, right? We believe what's happening as like, of course it's that way. But really everything that we think, whether it's the best thought in the world or a thought that's really destructive, none of it is real. It's all basically recycled from previous time, right? Like everything that we're thinking about comes from something we've heard or something we've learned or something. There's no, it can all be changed, right? It can all be rewired and changed based on, again, we were talking about that idea of like seeing something different to change your perspective. When we say, okay, I can have a different thought and it creates a different response in my body. Wow, like that's such an interesting, even awareness to have. Like when I have this thought over and over again, which is actually like an invisible thought because it's a belief that's so deeply ingrained. For example, like the confidence piece. If I'm not smart enough, let's say, and that makes me feel insecure and not confident. So if I'm telling myself all the time that, I'm not smart enough, that's what's going to show up in my reality. Like everything that proves to me that I'm not smart enough, right? I'm going to create the experiences because that's what I'm going to look for in all of the experiences. Validation and proof that I'm not.
True.
Yeah. But if I tell myself something different, that the same thing is going to happen. I'm going to see what I believe, But it's not that easy because we can't just tell ourselves, I'm going to wave a magic wand and now I'm confident and I believe it. We have to look at that limiting belief. We have to look at that subconscious pattern and ask why it's showing up, right? Because you can't skip to the point where you just feel amazing because it doesn't work that way or else we'd all feel amazing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what is this belief coming up to show me? So if I feel like I'm not smart enough, I'm going to inquire, where did this belief start? This is really interesting because this is my soul's lesson that I need to learn. This is holding me back. It's actually an opportunity. It's a gift. It's a gift for me to like move past whatever this block has shown up to teach me. And so you go back into, maybe it is in that 0 to 7. Maybe it's in your teenage years. Maybe it's, chances are it started, the seed was started very young and then it sort of got kind of rehashed in your teenage years or something because it's already something you were looking out to prove to yourself, right? And so, you inquire and you ask questions. Okay, well, why did this belief, start in the first place? And also, what is this belief here to like help me? In some way, you created it to help yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like this belief was in some way trying to avoid suffering because you create the thoughts that you think in some way, even though we're often our own worst enemies. A lot of my clients have very negative self-talk when we first start working together, and it's in the beginning, before it gets to that point, the thought comes to help protect you. So it shows up, or even a behavior that's toxic. In sometimes it's first and foremost, it's in survival mode and it's trying to protect you from suffering. And so at the time when it was first, thought, or the behavior first started, it was to try to minimize suffering in your life. But then it no longer serves you and starts becoming a very disruptive thought or pattern. And there's no way to stop it because it's become automatic, or so you think. But there actually is a way to stop it, and it's the awareness to start off with.
This is I think it's freeing because you know that those blocks are protection mechanism, and then you go, I have empathy for the fact that I didn't want to go into this place and feel that I wasn't smart enough, and that wouldn't feel good to repeatedly be in a space that you feel that. But then you can let go of that belief and know that, I'm resourceful and I find ways to get new information and, that it contributes to your intelligence in this way. But it sounds like the manifestation is an opportunity to really pay attention to the identity that we're giving ourselves that didn't really belong to us necessarily in the first place.
Yes. And just even your view of yourself, how are you? Oftentimes we view ourselves as a harsh, not everyone, but a lot of people that I work with are very, very tough on themselves. And it's you are going through the world with this kind of this armor around you, and this negative self-view, and then expect everything else to work out when you're the one holding yourself back, right? And so when you can say, okay, I'm the one sort of putting these limitations on myself, and I'm the one telling myself I can't do this or that, what happens when I take that away? Really, everything is possible. That's I think when you're think about taking off a pair of glasses, right? And putting on ones that actually work. You're I can see,
Yeah. We want to just speak a little bit. We really respect you as a businesswoman and your career and that being a big part of your life. What would you say for you were some of the mistakes that you had maybe felt like you made, and I say mistakes very loosely in terms of, hindsight, but that maybe you made in your career that you'd want to share with us that you learned from?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think all, like you said, all the mistakes have all worked in my favor. So it's really even hard for me to answer that question, because I feel that, there's certain times where something is more motivating than others to me. And I think like I've had a lot of balls in the air with different businesses. Like I have different aspects of what I do, and I'll give one more attention than another at some points based on what I'm more drawn to. And I think lack of structure sometimes, and lack of being forced to give attention to certain things could be a mistake. But at the same time, in my own personal definition of success, it actually affords me like a great deal of freedom, and I'm able to sort of, go where I am most passionate or most inspired by in that time. Does maybe business suffer a little bit in certain aspects? Yeah, but like the way that it allows like my soul to find what it really wants to do in that time creates more success in the long run. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think sometimes this was actually asked last week. I put a question up on Instagram, and someone said, "Do you often get fearful when you're pursuing one area?" So let's say maybe you're focused on business consulting or manifestation coaching and being a mother and a wife, and so you haven't posted on how you glow in a while.
Right. That's exactly right.
Oh,
you nailed it.
And so people are trying to figure out how do you and we're curious, how do you create the emotional stamina to harness when you go, Jess, I haven't posted on how you glow in a while, and there's people that are, dialing away on their blog about, how you glow and the wellness factor. So like, what do you do to kind of keep that like equilibrium, if you will, of like, hey, like that's okay, What do you do to harness that?
Yes. Well, I think it all comes down to like what you give your attention to grows, right? Mm-hmm. And so we all have we have our energy, and we have the things that we value. And, I really value my family. I really value my work. I really value, being in nature. Like there's a whole puzzle, like we said, like there's all these things. I need physical activity, right? I need to move my body. There's like non-negotiables, right? Mm-hmm. And as long as those non-negotiables are being met, I'm doing the best I can, right? So it's like doing the best I can. So if I were like plugging away at how you glow, but I hadn't worked out in like a week, then I'd be like, I'm blowing it. I'm blowing it, because that is a non-negotiable for me, because I'm not taking care of my physical body. And but if ideally you want to find a balance of everything, but you need to know what your values are first. Like what are the most important things, right? And that can be your guide for what success means. Because I think, you could get so tied up in like these little, kind of checklist or tangible little things. But like really it's like what brings you the most energy. Like if you were to judge your life in energy, like what fills you up, what elevates your energy, what energizes you versus what just checks the box or what depletes you. It's like, let's structure your day around that, and I guarantee what energizes you will bring you more abundance, right? It will bring more opportunities to the table. When you have better energy and you have more energy, more opportunities become available to you. I could sit at the computer all day and plug away, but I wouldn't be living my dream life, which is what I'm preaching to everyone else, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm preaching. We talked about this earlier. I like to go for walks, right? I want to take my calls on a walk, right? I want to create a way that my day can work for me, right? And that I can fit everything in that's important to me, because your day is really your life. Your day kind of repeats on a loop, and you want it to be the best version of it. As you know, obviously some days you can't do everything that you want to do. And for people listening to this who are stuck in a job maybe that they don't like, or doing things that they have to do, it's fine for sure. But there is a way out. Just knowing that there is a way to restructure your day, even in the smallest way. Maybe it's waking up early and prioritizing time in the morning and working and moving your body. Maybe it's taking a couple calls outside. Maybe it's taking a break in the middle of the day. But figuring out a way to structure your day so that you feel in control of your energy and that you're not a victim to someone else saying you have to do this, right?
I love that. I think it's like we say like little things often, and it's just like this kind of idea that you said you're in charge of your day. You know, you're designing your life, and that's like one of the most important projects that you are ever going to.
It's your masterpiece. Yeah. It's your art. Yeah. You know, your life is your art.
Yeah, this is helpful because we were curious, like, what does a typical day look like for you, and like how are you measuring like success in a day? And I definitely feel like this is something that sometimes can feel challenging for a freelance artist or anyone who has their own business when they're trying to figure out, okay, what does that success look like? And like leading with values, like you're saying, is a really good place to start.
Yeah. And I think for me, I'm still kind of shaping how being a mom of two and, you know, an entrepreneur and a wife and now a homeowner and all of these things, like how to find the balance within all of that. And like I said, like I feel like at this moment, I feel more settled. I feel more ready. But the last, few months, there hasn't been a lot of extra space. Everything has been sort of very full. But I think having space, even just the tiniest bit of space, is so important for creation. Having space to receive and to dream and to, be still to receive that guidance from something beyond yourself is so imperative in making moves, making things happen.
I love it. Having another little one, what has, I guess specifically with women, we haven't heard as many women speak to like how has having children affected your career in both ways that you might say has been a challenge and also been a gift.
So I decided to become a manifestation coach once I had Amelie. So she sort of, I think, inspired the whole thing. I really do. I was walking on the beach with her in my little front pack carrier, and I just had this moment, this download come through that I should be doing this with clients. I should be helping people create their dream reality, that was my purpose, that I should stop doing what I was doing, which was at the time, I was leading therapy groups at sober living houses and treatment centers in art therapy and yoga. So that was and I loved it. It was awesome. But I just wanted to work with everyone. I wanted to work with lots of different people. I wanted to do my sessions. At that time, it was at the beach. I wanted to be in nature more, and I wanted, I wanted to just help people who were also really ready to be helped, because sometimes in treatment centers, there's a lot of resistance. You're not necessarily like coming there and being like, hey, it's like they're sometimes just put there. It was a lot of teens as well, which was awesome work. I'm so grateful for it. But Amelie inspired that parlay into this realm, and I think, the challenge is time. The challenge really is time, and you have to be really intentional with your time when you're a parent. You have to be super, super skillful at getting support, getting the right people in place to help you, to finding the right school or daycare or whatever it is so that you can work. I don't know how parents who have work and their kid with them all the time. I think my hat is off to those parents, because for me it requires, I need to have space. I need to not be with my kids to work all the time. Although I will say, up until Lucia is now 1, up until probably 7 or 8 months, I did all my coaching calls with Lucia on my chest. So that said, she was there for a lot of my work, and that was so awesome. And I think every time I pinched myself that I was walking through a forest or something, on a coaching call with clients that I loved, with my baby, like breastfeeding. And I was like, this is the ultimate, like, wow. Like, I really would pinch myself. Now she's too big for that. The second she like became a little bit more like squirmy, I was like, okay, this is coming to an end, sadly. And that chapter, you know, is over now for us. But, you know, it's a constant sort of reevaluation of like what the needs are of the kids, what the needs are for my work, and making sure that I have, you know, the team in place to be able to help me manage everything.
Mm-hmm. And for someone that listens and says, I'm not in a position to have a team, what are maybe tools or things that you would suggest is like a good starting off place?
Yeah, and by team even, it could be, I mean, daycare.
Yes.
I mean,
a friend.
like a friend. I mean, the team is just anyone who can help you, basically. But I think a good starting off point is naps, right? Okay, so like a nap time, and my children, unfortunately, are not the best nappers, but from my friends who I've heard have very regular nappers, they'll give you like an hour at least, or 2 hours. So in that 2 hours, you know you've got time, right? You have to be super disciplined with that time. And that time is not to clean the house. It's not to like, you know, do things for your kids. It's to do things for yourself, right? And that time has to be a commitment to whatever your intention is. And if you don't have that, you know, intention, sure, clean the house, do all you want. But if there is a goal that you want to achieve, that time is for you. And that quiet time is precious. And so if you know you're getting maybe an hour or two in the morning, an hour or two in the afternoon, that is your sacred time to commit to it being for yourself, whether that means sitting in silence for that time, whether that means, you know, working out or writing or doing, you know, whatever you need for your startup or whatever your dream is, but dedicating that time for yourself, because it's so easy to just keep doing things for everyone else as a parent and put yourself last, but it needs to be prioritized.
This is like you're calling us to really pay attention to those boundaries, you know, and honor those boundaries for the greater good of like, you know, ourselves and each other, really. Yeah.
I mean, the more that you put into yourself, the more that you have to give. And no one wants like a stressed out, you know, mom, like who's like because the days where I'm so tired, it's like they say one thing and you're like in the room, you know what I mean? But like when I've like, you know, taken care of myself, I'm like, oh, like your whining doesn't bother me. Let's just, you know, it's like you have just such a higher threshold for everything that comes your way. I think movement, like making sure you move, and I know you are the queen of this, but like getting your blood flowing, getting your energy flowing through your body. Stagnation creates so much more stress, so much more anxiety, and just makes you feel more lethargic, right?
Yeah.
And so talk about raising your vibration. It's like the more that you move your physical body, the more that you actually become more of a vibrational being, right? You're vibrating at a higher frequency when your blood is flowing, when your cells are, you know, like activated, right? And so the more that you can get it, whether it's like even like cat-cow in the morning, like getting on all fours and like breathing and just moving, shaking things up, creates more of like an opportunity for expansion in your day.
Okay, with regard to career, because we feel like, you know, you're a great example of this, but do you think that like success and purpose are always connected, and or have you ever had time where you've been successful but that's not been in your purpose, or vice versa? Because I think so many people are kind of exploring like, I'm successful but I don't feel like I'm in my purpose, or I'm in my purpose and I don't know if that kind of will lead to success. What do you think is the
Well, are you defining success as financial success, or what?
That's a good question. I think that let's say that most people would describe success as financial success.
Yeah, so I think the first and foremost thing is like, what is one's definition of success, right? So I think if someone knows that for themselves, it's much easier to navigate towards it, right? If it's like, because I think the misconception is sometimes like, once I make a ton of money, I'll be happy, right? And that's not true. We've seen it time and time again where someone makes a ton of money and they're still like, then they're even more unhappy because they're like, I have everything I wanted and now I'm still unhappy. What's wrong with me? And that can bring a lot of, depression or just a lot of hopelessness in someone's life because they're like, well, then what can I do to make myself feel happy, right? And the problem is that they didn't actually know why they wanted what they wanted, right? And so they think that, okay, if I get these, superficial things or if I get this money, everything will be okay. But really, it's just a decoy from like what's actually going to make them happy, which is a sense of purpose, right? So a sense of purpose doesn't have to be, and actually it's funny you asked this, Brian and I had this exact conversation this morning.
Oh yes, we're in alignment.
Yeah, we literally had this exact conversation this morning where, a sense of purpose does not have to be your job. It does not have to be your job. It does not have to have anything to do with your job, but it has to be something that, and it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be like, oh, my purpose is to, cure this or heal the world or, start a million things. Your purpose could be just to, be a mom. Your purpose could be just to, bring laughter to every situation you're in, to bring light, it could be anything that you feel is your special gift, your dharma, right? Your dharma is like your soul's purpose. And we each have our own unique dharma, which is so cool. And when you're in alignment with your dharma, with your special purpose on this earth, it doesn't matter what you're doing because you would do it for free, right? It's like you're doing, let's say you have a job and it's making ends meet, but you've got this thing on the side that you love. Maybe you keep the job, maybe you don't, but you have this thing on the side that you love that infuses everything you do with this energy of your soul's purpose. So you go to whatever you're doing knowing that I'm living my purpose because I found what my purpose is, right? And so maybe you keep the job, maybe you don't because you're able to make money doing the thing that's your purpose. But as long as you found your purpose, you hopefully feel that you're showing up as an empowered person that feels in alignment with their life. And sometimes, people don't know how to find what it is that is their purpose because I think there's this like lofty idea of like my purpose is just gonna.
I'm like yes, it is.
Right, it's like my purpose is just gonna like find me and like what should this purpose be? But really, it's like a feeling. Purpose is really like I'm here for a reason. I'm here. I have purpose. And every single one of you have purpose just by being here. You wouldn't be here if there wasn't a reason for you, right? There wouldn't be a purpose for you if you weren't here. So your purpose is owning that purpose, right? It's saying, I'm here for a reason. Here's my natural gift. Here's what I have to offer. And it doesn't have to be something, again, you don't have to be the best musician. You don't have to be the best this or that, but something that lights you up, something that makes you feel alive, something that makes you feel like that spiritual energy that like, ooh, there's something more than just what we see, right? Mm-hmm. And usually your sense of purpose will give you that glimpse of that. When you're in that flow state, you're not always going to be in it. That's unrealistic, right? Even doing what you love, sometimes you find it, sometimes you don't, right? But I think when you tap into that and you're like, ooh, I like that. Like you doing this right now, you're probably living your purpose in a way, right? And you feel it. You're like, ooh, I'm in it. Like, how cool is that? And I think when someone tastes it, they know it. And it can be in a really small way, too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, and it doesn't mean that even when you are in that purpose, that it does not come with challenge.
Of
we
course.
were saying like on the way up here, like, oh my goodness, when we like dreamt of what this show could be, I have your name on a Post-it from the very beginning. And we thought, wow, like we're headed to Montecito to speak with Jess. Like, but that didn't mean there were not late nights of editing and frustration and tears and figuring out who was going to be a part of that equation. And now that even we're in your home and we see the space, and you mentioned that your husband, Brian, likes to, be involved in the design, it's actually really nice to see that there's that consistency, right? Like the business that he has built, and I remember you sharing about the Proper long ago, and just knowing that that is part of his purpose. Because now when he was in his home, he still wanted to show up for that and design that space too, and be in it and create that sort of energy for you guys as a family. So
right, yeah, and it doesn't have to be this one thing. It's like for people thinking like, oh, I've got to find like my purpose. It can be something that shifts and changes, and it doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm locked into my purpose because I've decided that my purpose is that let's just say it's me. I'm going to be a coach, a manifestation coach, and that's my purpose. It's like, that's something that brings me a lot of joy that I feel like I'm using my unique gifts to do, that I feel like really alive when I'm doing. It gives me energy. I feel purposeful. But who's to say that in a year from now, that's going to shift into something else, right? And who's to say that if I lock myself into this purpose, when I start not enjoying, if I started to not enjoy it, or if it didn't energize me anymore, I'd actually be dimming my own light by staying in that, right? And I think sometimes, especially like an older generation might get locked into what they think is their role, right?
Yes.
And their purpose in this life, and not give space to explore all that's available. And so I really like this new wave that we're in, and I really feel like we're entering kind of a new era where it's like, you don't have to define yourself by your job, right? First of all, that's not who you are. It's what you do.
Yeah.
And it can shift and it can change. And I encourage people to like, yes, of course, like study something, get totally immersed in something, and like get passionate about a field and become an expert at it, but don't lock yourself into it. Things can change. You can also decide to do something else, and it's never too late to do something else.
A blessing, Jess. Thank you. Thank you for giving us that. I think it feels light. It feels like, oh goodness, I feel like optimism in that, and that there's possibility, and that you're not anchored to anything or any one or any specific idea and calling. And so it feels fluid in that,
Totally. Well, everything's a choice, right? So I think that when you remember that, you feel free. And when you're choosing, like even your day, like how you spend your day, like we said, it's a choice. It can always be changed. You can always make a different choice. And so you can make a different choice on how to think about something, how to see something, how to perceive something, how to perceive yourself, how to live your life. So like each choice that we make is fluid. We can always choose something different. Like you can always choose to forgive someone that you've had a hard time with for a long time. You can make that choice at any given time.
I think that's part of your superpower, is you remind us that we have those choices, and I think that it's kind of how you express it. I feel like that's part of your gift, is like that you constantly evaluate your choices, but then you remind us that we have them. And I think that that's something that I admire in you, and something that I know a lot of people, we look to you for, like you're a mirror for us. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So sweet. Okay, let's see. We have a couple other things. Oh, okay. We have some questions for you about love and relationships. Okay. Can you fill in the blank for this sentence?
Okay. Woo. All right.
You know that you're in love when?
You know that you're in love when you feel seen and you feel at home with the person. I don't know, with Brian, I knew I loved him. I knew I was going to marry him on our second date, but I felt, even on our first date, I felt like I had known him before. Like there was just this feeling of I know this person. We have history together. That was honestly the feeling. He just felt like so easy to be around, and the second date, it's the weirdest thing. I just knew he was my husband. It was like beyond explanation, honestly. And after our first date, he called his mom and said he had met his wife. So there was something going on that was like our past lives, who knows what. But we spent the first 6 months of our relationship just making sure we were both right. Being like, this is crazy that we let's just prove to ourselves that we're this is an actual thing, not because we felt it so strongly. So we held back a lot. We wanted to do so much so quickly, but we were let's go to India and test ourselves there, because India is a hard place where everyone gets sick and everyone, has challenges.
Yeah.
Let's throw ourselves into that. And we did well. We both got sick, but we did well.
Did you guys?
For sure.
A playground for adversity there.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
in
what we were
India.
looking for.
Oh,
'Cause
really?
we're looking for like to challenge ourselves, you know, to like see what it was like under the fire a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay, we got this.
Wow. What do you think that you brought to that relationship that maybe you hadn't previously brought in other relationships? You know, like you probably showed up to this at a certain frequency and energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, you know, right when I met him at the perfect time. I had just come off of I was in a relationship and then I was single for 7 months. And during those 7 months, I was like traveling like crazy. I was a yes person. Anytime I was invited on any sort of adventure, I said yes. I just like allowed myself to experiment and explore and just see what was out there and have fun. And I wasn't in a rush to meet anybody. I wasn't in a rush to settle down. Honestly, I was just trusting my journey. I had had a heartbreak before that, and I was just sort of like, instead of, you know, fear-based, like, oh, you know,
find somebody and
I was like, I just want to have fun. I just want to explore. And so when I met him, I was coming off of like back-to-back like awesome experiences where I was just like, I was feeling great. You know what I mean? It was divine though, because I had to meet him at that point to like be a magnet for him, who was also, you know, he had been single and he, you know, had a whole life of adventure and all sorts of things. And we were the perfect match at that point. Our magnets were just, and I think, you know, because there was no rush, we felt so attracted to one another. There was just such a magnetism there. But so your question, I think what I brought in was that feeling of being so content on my own, and that feeling of just being fully myself and not trying to impress anyone, not trying to get anything from anyone, but just showing up to have an experience, really, to have an experience and to meet someone. And it was all very natural.
And you guys have been married now, and you have 2 little ones. What do you guys, you know, what have been the opportunities for you guys to keep your relationship vibrant? And we kind of briefly spoke earlier just about in the beginning, you know, that part seems less, you know, easy in the beginning, right? When you meet somebody. But what's that journey been?
Yeah, so we're coming up on 5 years next month in October. October 15th will be our 5-year. And yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, we're like, wow, we finally made it to like a significant amount of time, because it's always felt like we did everything super fast. We had Amelie, you know, we got pregnant with her on our honeymoon.
Did you?
Not even trying.
Oh,
we got pregnant with her. And then Lucia, you know, a couple years later. But it just felt like we're always sort of newlyweds. You know what I mean? It had that feeling. We're like, 5 years is significant. That's like a good amount of time to be married. And I think for us, you know, I think we really prioritize each other and time with each other in a sort of like unapologetic way, I would say. Like, we do not feel guilty going for a date day, for a whole day, or for a date night, or, you know, we build that into our regular programming, or else we would go insane. Yeah. You know, we really prioritize spending time together. And, you know, Brian works from home. I work from home a lot of the time. And so even just like the little moments throughout the day, like, you know, connecting as much as we can. And yeah, I think like you said, and like I said before, in the beginning, it's like, oh yeah, we're madly in love. And it's so, you know, you have these, you know, all these chemicals going, and like you're so obsessed with each other, and there's no other distractions. And then you have a life with 2 kids and responsibilities and, you know, jobs that are more demanding, and you have to be committed to nurturing that part, because it's easy to be like, oh, well, we've already got that, so we don't need to like put energy into that. But the truth is that will fade if you don't put energy into it. So everything that you're building, you can't neglect what's already been built, right? And so you've got to give energy to it, and to not just expect it to be like even what it was then, it's different now. Like you have to reinvent your love almost like according to where you are in your life. So it's a different, it's deeper, it's more dynamic than it was when we first met. And yeah, I just think we both are kind of romantic people.
You are. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's like we both really
Value that.
love love and we value love. So I think for us, we built a podcast around that concept, Madly Forever, of like, how do we do that? I mean, I think that's the thing. It's like we really want to learn from other people too. We don't have all the answers either. And I'm sure, in different seasons of life, you need to, kind of elicit different advice and different, ways of navigating certain things. But I think thus far we've really come to each other to like ask each other what sort of they need or we need to both be really seen, really loved, really happy. And yeah, so far it's working.
So cute. We are really curious about the senses. So we wanted to know, what is your favorite taste right now?
It's a really good one. Well, currently I've been eating a lot of passion fruit. We have passion fruit vines here. And have you ever had one?
I have.
Yeah, they're
yes.
so unique,
yeah.
right? They're such a special taste. So I think right now I'm in that passion fruit taste.
And what about your favorite scent?
I love the smell of like fire, like
yes.
like burning like cedar and Palo Santo and just those like earthy kind of fall scents that make you feel like you're camping. I love that.
Is there anything that you're listening to, like a sound that's resonating for you?
Well, it's funny. Recently, I've been recording meditations, guided meditations. So I feel like I've been listening to my own voice, which is like a lot. But because you have to record it and then you have to play it back, but I've been listening to Lord Huron. Do you know Lord Huron?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah. So we just went to a concert at the Santa Barbara Bowl, which is an amazing venue if you haven't been. It's so magical. It's like small and nestled in like this beautiful kind of amphitheater. It's really nice and it's so close. And I hadn't really been familiar with Lord Huron either. And we got invited to this concert. I'm obsessed.
Really?
Yeah, I'm obsessed.
What comes up when you hear the music? Like what nostalgia or does it bring up for you?
It's just like very... It's like soulful and feel good at the same time. So it actually does sort of like bring up those like nostalgic feelings, but it's like, it's uplifting too. And I think honestly, my association with it now is just seeing a live concert and like the first time in so long and like that feeling of live music with people and like feeling alive and dancing. And the show was so beautiful. It was really inspiring, and now I'm like hooked. I love Lord Huron.
We'll have to play it.
Yeah.
How do you recognize when you feel like what does it look like when you feel light? If someone's looking and we're like Jess is feeling in her element, what does that look like for you?
That looks like I've first of all had like a shower in the morning, right? Let's go back to basics.
Yes.
I've showered. I've been able to like, move and had some exercise. I've drank water. I've had a beautiful meal. I've been loving with my family and with my husband and my kids. And I feel like, I've been able to really, spread my gifts through my work, and I've been able to tap into, my manifestation techniques and help people. And yeah, it feels like I'm kind of a multi-dimensional being that has infinite energy to share with those that I love.
Is there anything right now that you might be calling into your life that we can help you and push you and encourage you along the way?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm creating a course right now, a manifestation course that I've put a lot of time and energy and love into. I'm still working on it.
Okay.
It's going to launch TBD, but sometime in the next couple of months. And yeah, that's what I've been recording the meditations for, and it'll be videos. And yeah, I just want to be able to reach more people and to help more people. And as I was saying, it was part of that equation of like, I only have X amount of time, right? And like, I want to be able to reach more people, to help more people. And this was the smartest way to do it and the best use of my time. So that is what, that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm calling in, that it helps as many people as possible.
Well, thank you, Jess. We can't wait to support you and the course. And thank you for opening your home to us and sharing really your experience and your wisdom and being a mirror for us to ask new questions. And
Thank you. It's honestly an honor to chat with you. You're amazing.
Thank you.